Think about the last time you were out in nature. You're hiking through a quiet forest, light filtering through the canopy, and you spot a patch of wild green leaves with tiny white flowers. Or maybe a cluster of dark, glossy berries that look almost identical to the blueberries you bought at the grocery store last week. If you were lost, hungry, or just playing around with the idea of living off the land, would you eat them? Here's the cold, hard truth. Most people would make an educated guess. They'd rely on a vague memory, a half-remembered trick from summer camp, or worse, a myth they saw on TikTok. And in the world of wild plants, a guess isn't just a mistake. It's a game of Russian roulette with nature. Welcome to the hidden world of wild foraging. Today, we're tearing down the deadly myths, exposing the most terrifying lookalikes hiding in plain sight, and breaking down how real botanists and survival experts tell the difference between a delicious wild feast and a lethal mistake. Let's get one thing straight right away. Plants don't play by our rules. In the animal kingdom, danger usually comes with a warning. A rattlesnake shakes its tail. A poison dart frog glows in vivid neon colors. But plants? Plants are silent chemical architects. They don't have teeth or claws, so they defend themselves with complex, invisible compounds, alkaloids, glycosides, and oxalates designed to destroy biological systems from the inside out. Some of these compounds execute a swift attack on your central nervous system. Others quietly shut down your liver or kidneys. And here's where it gets truly terrifying. Many of the world's most dangerous plant toxins don't cause an immediate sting or bitter taste. You swallow the plant, it tastes completely fine, and you go about your day. Meanwhile, the toxins are silently working. Hours later, when the violent symptoms finally strike, irreversible organ damage has already set in. And don't fall for the classic myth that cooking fixes everything. Sure, heat can break down mild, annoying irritants in a few specific species, but against the heavy hitters of plant toxicity, heat does absolutely nothing. Boiling a deadly plant just gives you hot poison. Even worse, a plant can literally be edible in one part and toxic in another. The leaves might be harmless, while the berries contain enough poison to stop your heart. Add in geographical climate shifts, where a harmless plant in one state looks identical to a deadly killer in another, and you realize why close enough is a phrase that gets people buried. To survive out here, you have to throw away every shortcut you've ever heard. Real identification isn't about looking at a leaf for 3 seconds and making a call. It's a system. Experienced foragers look at the complete architecture. They examine leaf arrangement. Are they opposite, alternate, or whorled? That single detail alone can instantly rule out entire hazardous plant families. They analyze stem structures, root systems, and exact flower geometry. They cross-reference multiple verified field guides. Because in the wild, the ultimate goal isn't to find food quickly, it's to identify it with absolute mathematical precision. And if there is even a 1% margin of doubt, you turn around and walk away. If there is one single reason people end up in the emergency room after foraging, it isn't because they randomly ate a plant they knew nothing about. It's because of lookalikes. Noxious, lethal species have spent millions of years evolving right alongside harmless ones. Take the classic example, wild carrot, commonly known as Queen Anne's lace. It's a completely safe, edible wild plant, but standing right next to it in the exact same field, looking almost identical to the untrained eye, is poison hemlock. This is the very plant famous for executing the ancient philosopher Socrates. At a quick glance, their delicate white flowers look identical. But if you look closer, hemlock hides its identity in plain sight. Smooth, hairless stems covered in distinctive purple blotches and an unpleasant, musty odor. Miss that one detail, and a simple salad turns fatal. Then there's water hemlock, often cited by toxicologists as the most violently toxic plant in North America. It frequently grows in wet ditches right beside wild parsnips, or considered deadly nightshade, whose glossy black berries can look tantalizingly similar to wild blueberries to an untrained eye. This brings us to the single most dangerous piece of survival advice ever printed in books, the universal edibility test. You've probably heard it before. Rub the plant on your wrist. If it doesn't sting, touch it to your lip. If your lip doesn't tingle, hold a small piece on your tongue. If nothing happens, swallow a tiny bit and wait. It sounds scientific, it sounds methodical, and it can literally get you killed. Here is why. The most dangerous toxins on Earth, including the deadly cyclopeptides found in toxic mushrooms and the cycutoxin in water hemlock, do not cause immediate skin irritation. They don't taste bitter, they don't burn your tongue. In fact, many victims of plant poisoning report that the lethal plant tasted mild or even sweet. By relying on skin and taste tests, you are giving yourself a false sense of security while swallowing deadly compounds. By the time your liver starts failing 12 hours later, it is far too late for a doctor to undo the damage. Taste tests are a gamble. Multi-point structural identification is science. So, what are the red flag species you should memorize before ever picking a single leaf? First, poison hemlock, with its purple blotched stem and fern-like foliage. Second, water hemlock, hiding near streams with bulbous hollow roots that contain concentrated poison. Third, foxglove, a striking plant whose compounds are so powerful they are used to manufacture prescription heart medication. Eating even a tiny portion can send your heart into fatal arrhythmia. Fourth, oleander, a suburban shrub so intensely toxic that even campers who burned its branches for firewood have been poisoned just by inhaling the smoke. You don't start by taking risks with complex plants. You start with the non-negotiables: absolute certainty, zero assumptions, and simple, forgiving species. Start with dandelions, completely edible from root to flower, with zero toxic lookalikes. Learn cattails, often called the supermarket of the swamp, because almost every part offers nutrition throughout the seasons. Master wild garlic and ramps, where the distinct, pungent onion smell immediately confirms you have the right plant. And above all, build a carefully calibrated mindset. Real foragers aren't reckless risk-takers trying to survive in the wild. They are patient, humble observers who treat nature with extreme respect. They double-check every leaf against multiple region-specific field guides, verify questionable species with local experts, and never, ever take a bite based on a guess. Because in the wild, knowing what not to eat is the only skill that keeps you alive.